the currency is freely floating. Zvinhu zvakarongeka. Good evening, Zimbabwe, and thank you for joining us on this amazing program, Free Talk, brought to you in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation and Heart and Soul TV and Radio. I am Blessed Mhlanga, Dara, your host this afternoon. Now we're going to be discussing the politics of the economy. We're going to be looking at how Zimbabwe's economy is surviving in the context of our politics. Can economic success be divorced from our politics? And we're also going to be looking at the economic indicators that the finance minister Mthuli has been saying are working very well. He has spoken about the success of the NDS1. He has spoken about the success of the transitional stabilization policy. And he also has spoken about the auction rate, which he says is an amazing success. So we're going to be discussing and ventilating these issues. And with me in the studio this evening, is the Honorable Member and former Minister of Finance, Honorable Tendai Biti, who is also the Vice President of the MDC Alliance. Welcome, Honorable Biti.
Welcome, Dara, Blessed Mhlanga. And Magadiva Mutasa, takasungana ukota nozo molesango.
How are you, Honorable, and good evening, viewers and Dara.
Yes, so I'm also joined by, as you can see,
thank you very much. I will come for that.
I'm also joined in studio by the president of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions. Now he represents the workers. This is Peter Mutasa, who's already greeted you this evening. And we are expecting to be joined by economist Persistence Gwanyanya. Now, Persistence Gwanyanya is also part of the RBZ monetary policy, and he's going to be also giving us insights on the issues around the monetary policy, the auction floor, and how it is working. But to open this program, I will ask Honorable Tendai Biti to just give us, from his perspective as a former finance minister, how our economy is performing, the state of our economy, and how politics is influencing it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dara. Yeah, so we are living in a world where fake news and lies have become the order of the day. And regrettably, we have a few individuals in the system who, are natural liars, who manufacture fake news. And regrettably, one of those individuals is Mthuli's Ncube. The economy, for all intents and purposes, is in a serious economic depression, which is fast-tracking itself towards an economic recession. The growth rate for 2020 is anything between -7% to -14%. Mthuli Ncube himself, in his letter to the IFIs, begging for money, written last year on the 2nd of April 2020, estimated actually that the growth rate for 2020 could actually be as high as -2020. Now, you only need to look at the fundamentals. You only need to look at the fundamentals. 2 weeks ago, the government of Zimbabwe released the ZIMVAC report. The ZIMVAC report is a poverty assessment report that is produced annually by the government of Zimbabwe in conjunction with the UNDP and in conjunction with the WFP and, of course, UNICEF. That report is frightening. It discloses that 2.3 million Zimbabweans are now living in extreme poverty. It exposes that the number of people living in poverty has increased from 76% to 84%. And 84% of the population are surviving on less than US $1.25 a day. So 4 things are affecting our people. Number 1, it's poverty and the collapse of all social indicators, your maternal mortality rates, your infant mortality rates, the number of people with access to clean water, the number of people with access to bathrooms, the number of people with access to electricity. The poverty levels are not good. Number 2 is the number of people that are in unemployment. The majority of our people are in formal unemployment. I know there's a debate right now about what is the level of employment. And I know that there is an argument that someone who is selling a juice card is not unemployed. The truth of the matter is that he is unemployed. So unemployment is hitting our people. Then number 3 is the mismanagement of monetary policy and the exchange rate policy, which has had a devastating impact on the wage regime in the country. So you have a situation where the average worker who used to earn around US $500, take a teacher in grade E, used to earn US $500. Come Mthuli Ncube, that same teacher now finds himself earning US $25 dollars. So there's been a massive devaluation of public sector wages. And since 2019, you have seen a permanent strike in the public sector, particularly in respect of teachers, and particularly in respect of nurses. Teachers have not gone back to school for literally the last 18 months, and it's not going to get any better. The devaluation of real incomes also affect pensioners. In the tsunami of 2008, $5.86 billion of pensioners' money was lost, and this was confirmed by the Justice Smith's commission of inquiry. No one has accessed the loss of value associated with the currency, associated with changes, associated with SI 33 of 2019. Because what happened is that from 2009, workers started slowly rebuilding their lives, paying pensions in US dollars. Come February 2019, they were now suddenly told that those pensions are now ZIM dollars. Their payouts are now in ZIM dollars. I'm acting for a number of workers, particularly people who are working for mines like Zimplats. You give your life for Zimplats 15, 20 years, and you are suddenly told that your pension, which was supposed to be $65,000 is now $65,000. I'm acting for thousands and thousands of pensioners through Martin Tarusenga's ZIMPIT, Zimbabwe Pension Trust. We don't even know where to start from. I myself, I'm a victim. The next thing that is affecting our people is the multiple economies that are existing that are blessed. You have got multiple economies that are existing side by side to the detriment of the working people. So you have a dominant US dollar cash economy, a dominant US dollar cash economy. If you go in a supermarket, if you go into a hardware, if you go everywhere, including government services, they are all levied, charges are all levied in US dollars. But the ordinary average person is earning in Zimbabwean dollars. So he has to convert his salary into a US dollar at a parallel exchange rate of anything between US 130 to US 150. When he goes into, he now has his US dollar. When he goes into a Pick and Pay, into OK Bazaars, into Bon Marché, into Chigumba, Cash and Carry, he will find them accepting US dollars, but at a premium, at an artificial premium of 1:82, which is 40–50% below the official exchange rate. So you've got a US dollar cash economy, you've got the RTGS economy, you've got the bond note economy, you've got the ZPT economy. All these things are prejudicial to the working people. Then number 5, you've got a rigged exchange rate. The exchange rate has been constant at 1:83 for the past, since June of 2020, when the exchange rate system was introduced. But the problem with that is that even the strongest currencies in the world, when I did my State of the Economy address for the MDC in December last year, I produced a graph that showed the volatility between the US dollar and the British pound, the US dollar and the South African rand, the US dollar and the Chinese renminbi, the US dollar and the Indian rupee, the US dollar and the euro. Those graphs were volatile, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. But the Zimbabwean dollar graph was constant because it is being rigged by John Panonetsa Mangunja. When you rig a currency, you are stealing from the working person who has got a constant income. So the economy is in a bad shape. The workers are suffering. I can go on about printing of money. Broad money supply is increased by over 2,000%, and they've been hiding the statistics. They've been hiding the figures. The last time that John Mangunda produced figures on money supply was in July of last year. We have managed to get the figures. Broad money supply is increased by over 2,000%. What does that mean? It means that there's too much money chasing too few goods. We're back to 2008, where we were all billionaires, but you couldn't buy a bottle of Coke. Connected to broad money supply is inflation. The regime will deny that there is hyperinflation. You, Dara Blessed Mhlanga, you know that the basket of goods you were buying for $100, that same $100 can't buy you anything now. So we've got inflation in the real US dollar inflation, which is amazing. I mean, to cause inflation of a currency that you actually don't control is amazing. But this government has done that. So in a nutshell, the economy is in a bad shape. It's going to be in a recession for a long while. Some of them are arguing that it's a V-shaped recovery. It's not a V-shaped recovery. It's a curve. It's a U-shaped recovery. In other words, we've been in this thing for a long time. And if you look at the structure of our economy, it loves these long, sustained downward spirals. So if you look at the crisis last time, which we interrupted through the government of national unity, the economy had been on a free fall from 2007, from 1997 to 2008. That's a period of 11 years. And I suspect we are in another trough of 10 years, 11 years, 15 years. I'll stop here for now because I make a living from speaking.
Amazing. I'm coming to you, Peter Mutasa. For the worker, how is politics affecting business? And do you think that the two can be mutually exclusive?
I think for the worker, the evidence is everywhere. The evidence is poverty. The evidence is misery. The evidence is incapacitation. Honorable Biti has put it clearly. how workers have lost out completely because of the challenges that we are facing or the problems that we have in this country. So if you look at the levels of salaries, no one can lie to us and say things are stabilizing. No one can lie to us and say things are better. If you look at the level of inflation of salaries for domestic workers, for example, during the GNU, domestic workers were earning a minimum of 85 US dollars. But if you look at now, the same domestic workers are earning 9 US dollars. And 9 US dollars is just 9 loaves of bread. So we have gone below what we were fighting against during colonialism. We have gone below what people were fighting against during apartheid. No one was paid 9 loaves of bread in colonial Rhodesia. People could still afford sending their kids to school, buy clothing, and pay for basic amenities. But now a domestic worker cannot do that. If you look at the minimum wage is 2,549 ZIM dollars, which is mere equivalent to 25 US dollars. It means for working the whole month in industry and commerce, someone who is working for a big supermarket is earning 25 US dollars. They cannot even buy from their shops that they are working in. 25 US dollars is just about 25 loaves of bread. It means the majority of people who are earning in the minimum wage are now only able to buy 25 loaves of bread. This is pathetic. If you look at provision of public services, which is why as Labour we have said clearly there is state failure. And one of the indicators of this state failure is failure by the state to provide public service. The same workers who are earning 9 US dollars, who are earning 25 US dollars, if they want to hire or to call for an ambulance, if you suspect COVID-19 infection, you have to pay 190 US dollars for the ambulance. And 190 US dollars, you need to work for almost 32 months for you to afford an ambulance. If you are supposed to be taken into a COVID-19 CIU section in any hospital, you need to pay around 800 US dollars where they are COVID-19 specialized treatment in private hospitals. 800 US dollars, then you need to work for eternity if you are a domestic worker earning 9 US dollars. So everything is showing. Go to our hospitals, they are dilapidated. You can't even get a pain ease. You can't even access x-rays. People are just admitted, but dying slowly in our hospitals. The whole staff, medical service providers, the whole staff there is demotivated, is incapacitated. The situation is the same, or if not worse, in schools. The situation is the same, if not worse, if you look at our roads. So there is no argument. There cannot be any logical argument, and there cannot be any sane person, whether you're in government or outside the government, who can say Zimbabwe in economy is stabilized, who can say Zimbabwe in economy is on the right trajectory. You can only be insane, or you can just be spewing propaganda or disinformation if you say the situation is normal. And looking at how the politics has affected the working class and the economy, you just need to look at the trends. The trends of our GDP since 1980. You will see that from 81 up to 85 during the Gukurahundi atrocities, we had challenges in the economy. You would also see that when we adopted the economic structural adjustment program, we had challenges in the economy in terms of GDP. Even if you look at the levels of capacity utilization, you will see that at the height of political madness in 2008, our capacity utilization dipped to below 10%. And when we embarked on GNU, it went up as high as 57%. And when we abandoned the GNU from 57 in 2011, in 2013, it had dipped to 36.1%. You will see that again when the bickering continued, when there was factionalism in ZANU-PF, and around 2015, 2016, it also dipped low to around 34.3%. And when there was some ray of hope, it increased to around 45% in 2017. But now we are seeing it again going down. Never mind the messaging that we are now getting from captains of industry. They are cronies of the ruling elites, and they are paid in their individual capacity or through their corporates to also side with the regime. So everything from GDP, from capacity utilization, from salaries. Honorable BT has spoken about our salaries in GNU, which were an average of 300 for those in manufacturing, and now it's an average of $25 US, an average of 500 for those in public sector, and now it's an average of $50 US. So everything is pointing to an economy that is in crisis. And the main crisis that we now have is that we are now a failed state, and we need to quickly address the failed state status that we are in.
Come to you, Honorable Biti. We seem to be at a tangent here, because just over the weekend when Finance Minister Mthuli was speaking, he used words like "zvinhu zvedu zvakarongeka," and he also said that the auction system, the currency, is floating freely and it's not being controlled. But you are saying something that is totally different. Do you have evidence that this is a lie?
Yeah, well, I don't need any evidence. I just need to look at the structure of the auction, Dutch auction system, to demonstrate my point that the auction is rigged. So when you have an auction is a free market. It has got free entry on both supply side and demand side. And the perfect example of an open market auction is the tobacco auction floors that opened on yesterday. So at the tobacco auction floor, there is free supply. Every tobacco farmer has got a right to go and sell his barrels at the 3 or 4 large tobacco auctions in Harare, whether it's Moka, whether it's a TSL. So there's free supply. And then there's also free supply of the buyers. Every person, including yourself, as long as you buy a license and make the necessary deposit, you'll be able to buy a tobacco. Now, if you look at this auction system, there's only one supplier, the Reserve Bank. There's only one supplier, the Reserve Bank. So if you have got a commodity with one supplier, that supplier determines the price. So it's not an auction system, it's a controlled fixed exchange system, because the supplier then determines the price. And the supplier has been determining the price since June of 2020, and the price has remained constant at 1:83.
Is this not good? Is this not good for our economy, that we have managed to stabilize a volatile currency, and at least people are getting money at 1:83, then allow it to be controlled by the black market?
No. The very fact, you see, once you commodify the US dollar, once you make it a commodity, once you put restraints on it, you create distortions, you create arbitrage, you create a huge industry of people, of parasites that benefit from the gap now between the fixed exchange control rate, between the controlled exchange rate and the open market rate. So you now have sharks right now that go to John Mangunga's auction on Tuesday, buy US dollars at 1:82, and then the next day flood a 4th Street. If you go into 4th Street, and I go into 4th Street, if you go into 4th Street, Mkoma Blessed, you will find crispy, brand new US dollars that are being sold in 4th Street, which you will not get in your banks, meaning that those people, our compatriots that are selling money in the 4th Street, are mere agents of the crooks that are actually buying money at the fixed official exchange rate to 1:83. So you create distortions. What should happen in an open market? What should happen is that the big exporters in this country, and we've got huge exporters, the Zimplats of this world, who export, the Caledonia golds of this world, the Tangandas of this world who export tea to the region, macadamia nuts to this world, the Delta corporations of this world who sell their alcohol outside our borders, should be allowed to sell their own currency to whosoever they want. The price, there will be open market price discovery. So the exchange rate will probably settle, in my opinion, at probably 1:180, but it will settle. If you go to Kenya, if you go to Uganda, if you go to Ghana, they've liberalized the exchange rate. So the average exchange rate in Kenya right now is $1 to 6,000 shillings. It has been like that for the last 20 years. If you go into a bank in Kenya, if you go into a bank in Uganda, they will ask you, say, do you want your money as Ugandan shillings or Kenyan shillings? Do you want your money as US dollars or South African rand? Because they liberalized the exchange rate. So what I'm saying is, liberalize this exchange rate. Liberalize this exchange rate. Remove export surrender requirements. Pay people in US dollars. Pay the worker in US dollars. Pay pensioners in US dollars. Then you will stabilize this economy. You've got a chance of stabilizing this economy.
Peter, aren't workers happy that the prices have stabilized owing to this auction rate system?
How can workers be happy when there is an unfair transfer, redistribution of wealth from the working class, from the peasants, from those who are working in the informal economy to the rich? The arbitrage that has been created by two factors. One, the fixing of the exchange rate at 1:83, and two, the promulgation of various statutory instruments, 133, 142, 185, that allows the sale of the pegging of prices of goods and services in US dollars, but then deny workers the opportunity to earn in US dollars. So that mismatch between the incomes which is coming in RTGS versus prices of goods and services which are in US dollars, and secondly, the controlled exchange rate at 1:83, which is only accessible by a few corporates who have got connection with the Reserve Bank and Ministry of Finance, few individuals who are cronies of those who are in power, and those who are in power are accessing a foreign exchange at a subsidized rate. But who is subsidizing that rate? It is the worker who is working in a mine that is earning in foreign currency, but that is changing a small portion of its earning and paying all the workers in RTGS. It is the workers who are working for supermarkets that are charging in US dollars, but those workers are earning in RTGS. So for workers,
but Peter, but at least your money is now working, because you can actually now budget. If you are earning 20,000 Zimbabwean dollars, you can actually budget, because the price of bread is stable, the price of your cooking oil is stable. Is it not so?
No, it doesn't work that way. The prices are pegged on the US dollar exchange rate that is obtaining on the real market, which they call the black market. There is no price that is pegged at 1:83. Go to any supermarket, if you want to buy using the US dollar, they will say they will change it to 1:90 or 1:100. They are not even using the RBZ exchange rate. So the salaries that we are earning are not only affected by inflation, they are affected by both inflation and for good order. Let me correct the point that prices of goods and services are going up. Our inflation, even as massaged and managed as it is still around 241, which is second only to Venezuela. And 241, even we know that that is a fake figure. It's still too high. And the reduction from 836 or 837 to 241 does not mean prices of goods and services are not going up. It simply means that the velocity is reduced. But at 241, that is still a way up expected figure. So our salaries are affected by inflation. One, prices of goods and services have not been stable. Prices of fuel has gone up and is the highest in SADC. Prices of bread has gone up. Prices of meat is beyond. During GNU, 1 kg was around 200, 250. Now 1 kg is over $5, $4.50, $5 in the ghetto. If you go in supermarkets like, okay, 1 kg is going upwards of $8, $12. So prices have been going up. If you look at prices of utilities like City of Harare, Gweru City Council, they've gone up by almost 900%. So it's a myth that there's stabilization. There's no stabilization. Then secondly, salaries are eroded by the black market, the real exchange rate. And this black market exchange rate is now hovering around 130. So if you earn 13,000 like a teacher, you are just earning $100. That $100 does not afford you to pay utilities, does not afford you to pay rentals that are in US dollars. The government utilities, even targets, they are now pegged in US dollars. And if you calculate the salaries that people are earning in the prices of goods and services, you see that workers are in a quandary. So there's nothing, we don't have anything to celebrate. In fact, we are very angry because we are financing lavish lifestyles of the ruling elites. We are financing lavish lifestyles of the cronies. There are cronies that are connected to the ruling elite. We are in a crony capitalism or a rentier state where everything, where there is regulation, there's regulatory capture. Where there is state-owned enterprises, they are captured. Where there is the major economic activities like oil, like importing basic commodities, those things are in the hands of few. So what is happening is those who are working, the farmers who are buying their inputs of tobacco, cotton, maize in US dollars, and who are being forced to sell in RTGS, their profit, their gain, economic gain is being transferred to the cronies and ruling elite through the arbitrage opportunity in exchange rate. The workers who are working everywhere, what they are supposed to gain is being transferred to the ruling elite and their cronies. So we are seeing massive redistribution of wealth. And definitely this country, if we don't change quickly, if we don't allow workers to go back to 2018 salaries and earn in US dollars, we are going to see a big jump in inequality that has never been witnessed before.
We are here on Free Talk, where we are discussing the politics of the economy. And joining me in studio is the former Finance Minister of Zimbabwe and Vice President of the MDC Alliance, Tendai Biti, and the President of Labour of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, Peter Mutasa. And this program is proudly brought to you by Frederick Newman Foundation in partnership with Heart and Soul TV. Now, I want to come back to you, Honorable Tendai Biti, and say the challenges that we face in the economy that you're talking about, the ruling elite or those in power have equally blamed the opposition for not being patriotic and calling for sanctions. This is why we are in this mess. Now, this has been repeated and constantly repeated. How do you so plead to these allegations that you are the center of this problem because it's politics?
Yeah, the regime is excellent at politics of deflection, politics of deceit, and the blame game. The regime is a challenge international relations, and that is generated by toxic domestic politics. Only yesterday, they sentenced young Makumborero Aruzivishe to an effective 14 years 14 months imprisonment over spurious and dubious charges. I'm a lawyer. You don't convict any person on circumstantial evidence unless the explanation that is being proffered by the accused person is so illogical, is so unreasonable, is so stupid that it's unbelievable. Makombero's explanation that he was simply walking and having a tea at the restaurant is beyond reproach. Only yesterday, the same regime passed constitutional amendment number 1. That constitutional amendment number 1 seeks to empower the president of the republic to appoint in his discretion the chief justice of the country against the current constitutional provisions that allow a process of public interviews by parliament and by other people of the chief justice. This bill could not pass during Mugabe's time because the ZANU-PF regime lacked the 2/3 majority in the Senate. They required 53 people, they had 52 people. So you now have a situation where against the provisions of section 147 of the Constitution, which says if Parliament is dissolved, any motion, any bill that was pending before it lapses, you now have the Mnangagwa Senate passing a bill that was passed by Mugabe's Parliament when Emerson was the leader of the House, and a Senate where Sekeramai was the leader of the Senate. Now you've got Monica Mchangwa. As I'm talking to you now, Netsai Marova, Joanna Mamombe, and Cecilia Chimbiri have, for the past 2 years, been systematically been abused by this regime. Joanna and Cecilia have been in custody for the past 2 months non-stop. I can speak of Jacob Ngarivumi. I can speak of Hopewell Chingono. I can speak of Job Scala. The entire leadership of our party, we are facing one charge or the other. As I'm talking to you right now, I've been convicted on the charge of wrongly announcing election results, which were true, by the way. I'm facing a charge of visiting Harvest House on the 6th of June 2020. I'm facing a charge of calling some woman allegedly stupid, some Russian mafia stupid on the 4th of December 2020. Our entire leadership, as I'm talking to you right now, the Mhlanga Commission came out against our people, 6, 7, or 8 compatriots that were shot on the 1st of August 2018. Nothing has happened to them. On the 12th, 13th of January 2019, 19 of our compatriots were shot and killed. Nothing has happened to them. 9th March 2015, Itai Dzamara disappeared. Nothing has happened to them. That's the real sanction in Zimbabwe. What about corruption? I used to chair the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, and I was fired inexplicably and dubiously because of the work we were doing. In 2017, $2.7 billion was stolen from Treasury. In 2018, $3.5 billion was stolen from Treasury. In 2019, much more, I suspect around $8 billion. They can't let Mrs. Chiri, the Auditor General, release the audited results of 2019 because the corruption we are going to see is unprecedented. Puyani is going to wake up from a grave because of the corruption that is there. So that is the real sanction. So the only sanction in Zimbabwe that are Blessed Mhlanga is Emerson Mnangagwa and that heinous party called ZANU-PF.
But as you speak, Honorable, you speak about these heinous things that are allegedly happening. But these same things are happening in Kenya. Worse is even happening in Uganda. But you do not see this level of sanctions and disconnect in the economy. The Kenyan economy is functioning, it's ticking. Why is our politics allowed to interfere with our economy?
Yeah, you have got a unique dictatorship. In ZANU-PF, you have got a unique predatory dictatorship that seeks to suffocate the capacity of every citizen to reproduce himself or herself in whatever manner. They will follow us in church. They will follow us in our unions. They will follow us in our political parties. They will follow us in our business. It's a unique type of dictatorship, normally associated with the securocratic states. So the complete emasculation of this country by the military produces this unique dictatorship, which you will see in North Korea, which you will see in Myanmar or Burma, as I grew up, calling it, which you will see in Pol Pot's Cambodia. It's basically a securocratic state with no pretense to legitimacy, with no pretense to consensus. That's why you see that everything is totally emasculated. I studied Kenya in the MDC when we wrote the Restart program in 2004. Members of that committee that included Tapiwa Machakada, Peter Robinson, economist D'Angela, and myself as chair of that committee, we visited certain countries that we were sent to study by our social democratic friends. One of those countries was Kenya. One of those countries was Ghana. One of those countries was Sweden. One of those countries was Norway. The amazing thing about Kenya was that Daniel Arap Moi was a fascist and he was a dictator. But inflation in Kenya at the time was only 14%. And the businesses were allowed some kind of autonomy, which you don't find in Zimbabwe. And you don't find in Zimbabwe, you've got these deranged fascists that will control even the way you breathe. Look at the attempts to pass the cybersecurity bill. Look at the attempts to pass the patriotic bill. It's a deranged, demanded regime that seeks to control everything, literally. Even the way we go and pee in the bathroom, this regime will try to control that.
Peter, you have also in the ZCT, you've been accused of taking workers and politicizing workers' issues and taking sides to try and destabilize a constitutionally elected government.
That is complete madness. We don't understand how people who benefited from the organizing and mobilization of labor, people who were trained and who got their first political education through trade unions, how they wake up all of a sudden and think that politics is a preserve for a few people in this country. We need to teach them and send them back to ideological schools, not Chitepo ideological school, but proper ideological schools, where they will be taught that the revolution of this country was not going to be successful without organizing in the workplaces. So if you look at the people who really forged ahead with the final stages of Second Mhlanga, you talk about your Benjamin Burombos, you talk about your Joshua Nkomo, you talk about even the Robert Mugabe had some dalliances with trade unions and the teachers there. So it was started, the second phase and the decisive phase of the Second Mhlanga, especially the coming into being of nationalist political parties, started at the workplace. It was workplace politics. The symbol, for the simple reason.
So you want to take us back there? You want to take us back there where you are organizing politics at the workplace? So you're political animals, you're not workers.
We want to be unapologetic about our participation in political matters, because politics is simply who gets what, when, and how, as defined by Harold Laswell. And we are into, we are making political pronouncements, we are making political decisions, including the decision to form the MDC. It is made because in clear response to stupid political decisions that are made by people in power. The stupid political decision to adopt ASAP and to cause workers to lose jobs, to cause workers to lose their dignity, is what caused labor to venture into formation of a political party. But what we need to say to ZANU-PF or to those in government, there is no bigger opposition to it currently than its own policies. Its own policies to pauperize workers, its own policies to impoverish all citizens except them and their families is the biggest opposition. Its own policies to change workers' salaries from 520 teacher salaries to 51 to 50 US dollars. Their own policies to change salaries of domestic workers from 100 US dollars to 9 US dollars is the greatest opposition. The greatest opposition to ZANU-PF is its decision to abduct citizens who are in their homes, to torture citizens. The greatest opposition is corruption. The greatest opposition is militarization of the state and its attempt to form a one-party state. So what ZANU-PF or those in power must know is that the ZCTU and Labour, we are not partisan, but we are siding with justice. We are siding with democracy. We are siding with good governance. We are siding with those who are against corruption. And if ZANU-PF identifies itself with dictatorship, if it identifies itself with corruption, if it identifies itself with patronage, if it identifies itself with illicit financial outflows that is causing us to lose over US 100 million in gold alone, and we know who are the warlords who are controlling gold around the country, it is known as the same politicians. If it is siding itself with all those, including incompetence and poor governance, then yes, workers are in opposition to it because we need good lives. We need restoration of our dignity. So there's nothing peculiar about workers participating in politics. If they don't want workers to participate in politics, who are they expecting to vote them? If workers are supposed to be voting them, do they want workers to vote them just like zombies without making decision, without making political statements, without making political organization? So that is a sign of a serious dictatorship. Anyone who wants another section of the community not to participate in politics is a dictator. We are enlightened, we are very conscious. This is why we formed ZANU, this is why we formed ZAPU, this is why we formed MDC, and we are going to continue as Labour to participate effectively in political matters, and this is a constitutional right, and no one should question us on that.
Amazing. Just before we carried out this interview, we had to add your voice, the people's voice. Now, we went out in the street and we started asking, do the people of Zimbabwe feel or see the economic recovery? And this is what they had to say. We also wanted to hear from them if the politics is interfering in the recovery or lack thereof of the economy in the country. And this was their voice. This is what they said.
Sekuona kwenyu munofunga kuti economy yeZimbabwe yachinja here tichitarisa Professor Mthuli Ncube anotaura kuti economy yachinja ende vanakonda vari kubenefita from it.
Isusu kuchinja kwayo tisi kuiona kuti tiri mavhenda tiri mustreet tatomerwa zvakanyanya nekuti kare isusu taishanda necouncil yeHarare ndiyo yaisunga mavhenda. Saka ezvinezvi isusu mavhenda tatambudzika, zeta rapi inosunga vhenda, mablack boots anoti mangongongo anomhanyisa mavhenda, kanzuru chaiye traffic yeyi yakashaya mota murodhi inomhanyisa mavhenda. Saka mavhenda tisisina rugare nekuti ndo patiri kuraramira. Hatisi kuziva kuti vending ndo yacrime here muZimbabwe yekuti wese wemunhu wemutema akatarisana nevhenda paise paona vhenda datorisunga. Saka ipapo mavhenda tatambudzika, ngavatisiyire kukanzuru tisungwewo nekanzuru chete ndo yakamirira kusunga mavhenda, kwete zeta rapi, kwete pisi, kwete ameno masection avakasiyana siyana ese ane akatarisana nemavhenda. Tichiziva kuti mhosva kutengesera mustreet asi kudawo kurarama. Tobonga vatinzwirewo kuti isusu mavhenda ndi mabasa hakuna. Ezvezvo vana vada kuenda kuchikoro, takabhadhira maschool fees, ari kutirwadza mwana ari kuenda kuchikoro 2 days. Pesa paachaendi. Saka economy yacho zvava kuti zvadai satisi kuzviona isu. Zvinhu zvakati takaomerwa.
Ende muchitarisa economy, do you think kuti politics ine chekuita neeconomy yemuZimbabwe?
Ipapo ndisingasonyatsoziva hangu kuti politics iri kushanda here futi ipapo pakuti anyanya kuomeserwa. Zvinogona kupindirana futi nokuti kuti kuomeserwa tiri kuti kunenge kwepolitics siko kuda kuti tirarame.
Ine ndikutoona ise iri kutowedzera kuoma pari zvino.
muchiti mukona sekuwedzera kuoma mukutarisa chii ende chikonzero chenyu chekuti mukona sekuwedzera kuoma chinde chenyu?
Mararamiro atiri kuita, matsvagira atiri kuita mari haisi kuwanika zvakanyanya. Apa mafambiro transport iri kutitambudza yekuti tipinde mutauni kuti tizotsvaga mari.
Ende sekuona kwenyu munofunga kuti politics yemuZimbabwe ine chekuita here neeconomy nestate yeeconomy senzike zvamukutsanangura?
Ini ndikuona sekudaro nokuda kwokuti kune vamwe vari kuitirwa zviri nani nokuti vanenge vari mudhuze vachifambira izvozvo. Zvine isusu tinongoramba tichingotsvaga kungoraramawo tingori tega kudai, zvinhu zviri kutiomera.
Haina kuchinja, itori worse pane zvanga zvakaita kudhara. Izvi zvato serious. Nokuti kurarama kwacho kuri kutooma. Izvi tine vana vanoda kuenda kuchikoro, mari dzacho tiri kushaya. Tine vana vanoda kunyora form 4. Zvakatooma, totongosha kuti toita sei, todiiko. Zvinhu zvakaoma.
Kana muchiti haina kuchinja, sei muri kudaro?
Zvinhu mabasa aimbowanika. Zvinezvi tiri kutengesa, tiri kungomhanyiswa. Mapurisa ari kungotimhanyisa matinenge tichitengesera. Situation iyo yatochinjawo, iyo vakatoomerwawo nazvo. Saka isusu wacho hatisi kutikwanisa kutengesa kuti togere vana vedu school fees, chii zvese chikafu chaicho zvakaoma.
Ende sekufunga kwenyu mukuona unge politics ine chekuita neeconomy yemuZimbabwe?
Politics inacho chekuita nezvemuno muZimbabwe. Nokuti kana ukada kutaura kudai zvirondokonzi nyararai, zvikada kutaura nyararai, saka tonyarara kusvika rini zvinhu zvakangooma kudai? Tonyarara kusvika rini? Hazvisi kunyararika, kumba kuri kupisa. Kuno kwacho kwatobuda regai tiende totsvaga chikafu kuri kungopisa. Apa vana vari kuda kudya. Dai hurumende iri kutonga ipapa, dai yanga iri mwe ichicheuka ichititarisawo kuona kuti zvakamira sei. Asi iyo iri kungoda kuguta iyo pachayo. Isusu tiri kufa nenzara, tiri kutambudzika. Ende hapana kuti takavhota apa, takavhotera, hatina kuvhota ka isusu. Dai yanga romwe waitijekesera zvakanaka-naka, dai vambobvisa utungamiri huripo, toona kuti chii chinoitika. Tatambudzika isu, tashungurudzika kusvika pekupedzisira.
Economy yacho chinja zvakanyanya. Why I'm saying so? Because makore kudhara ma-elders edu achishanda vaitaura kuti tikatambira mari taikwanisa kuchengeta mhuri kuchengetai, but hapana zvavakaita kuma 19th century 18th century, hapana zvavaita. But ezvinezvi nyange munhu asina kudzidza akangoenda munhu akanorima akwanisa kutenga motikari yake akutoita honda akutoita chimushikashika autorarama. Munhu angwanoka mari aenda nokorokoza autouya negold autoenda kutenga kastendi kake autouya Land Road. Enezvi upenyu hwanyore hwachipa than kumashure.
Ende sekuona kwenyu, do you think kuti politics ine chekuita neeconomy yeZimbabwe?
Yeah, ine chekuita zvakanyanya, especially pakashaya vanhu vanopoliticize zvinhu economy. Vamwe vari kunyanya kupoliticize to the extent yekuti zvinhu zvatinofanira kubenefita usually pachena, vamwe vanongoda kutora advantage of politics vakushandisa kukambena because of my needs, because vanhu vatofanira kuwana pachena.
Hapana chachinja, yazvatowesi nenyaya yokuti patakangonzi corona isusu takanomhanyirwa kuvharirwa tisina kugadzirira zvokufuti vanga vadai vakatorera vanhu uchigadzirirai patavakuenda zvinhu pakadii pakaoma. Saka nekuti iyo manje zvavo zvanga zvakawaitira zvovo zvakanaka, ende vakanotora advantage vavhatisa mukana mushumba. Mapurisa masoja aya ekutanga yakatidhirisa zvokusvika kuti hatina chekuita. Mapurisa iko zvino izvi ari kunzi chengetedzai mamaski vachidai. Muri kuona kuti covid inobata vanhu masevhirieni mapurisa abatwi. Iyo munoona akazemberana ari kudya akadai akaisa panhingirikini vakazemberana, hapana social distance, masiki yacho haana kutopfeka.
Alright. Neipapo tichita
bata unonzwa kutaura kuti saka toita sei, tese tofanira kudya.
muchitaura panyaya yamataura yenyaya yeeconomy, mukufunga kuti politics neeconomy zviri kuneka kudyidzana here muZimbabwe?
Hazvina completely different. Wepolitics yoga vanongoti chero ndakagara danda rangu riri kuenda. Economy inochaitaura kuti koima mutidera mudere muri kufarana maneko takadai zvakapesana vari kuenda economy iri kuenda hapana chiripo. Of which politics ndinofanira kubhandasisa economy ndokuti zvinhu zvifambe, because politics nevanhu zvimwe chete, vanhu ndio economy vachifambisa zvidaro. Saka manje kana zvichiti politics dzinotaura zvadzo, economy inenge ichitaura zvayo, umwe ari kuenda kuku umwe ari kuenda kuku, hapana zvinomecha. anozosiya vanhu vakusafa zvavari kuita izvozvizvi ofuchi munhu akavharirwa chikoro chavhurwa mari iri kudiwa mumba kuri kudiwa rendi chimba chekudya chiri kudiwa chekuti abatangire basa racho kuti awane chekuisa muhomwe wacho hapana iwo watondibata watodai ndatodii ndatotora iwe ndise muhomwe saka hapasina zvazviri wori nyaya iri papa icorruption hapana kubatiri kwenu because wori ndo wakuwadza zvinhu zvese munyika ine
iye hainambochinja zvinhu zvatotiomera kunyanya isusu tisina varume tinotambura tisina vana vanoenda kuchikoro mari hatine kuvapa kuti vaende zvikoro kuti tengese undosunge ngwaba asi kuti wakurarama tichazoitohure here pina mumabhawa here zvatiomera asi totirarama hatisi kuba hatisi tiringete vana vatinawo tichirarama upenyu hunenge huri nani iva upenyu unotosunga ngwaba kuza kuzotakarisa kubata bhurugwa kudai kuzviwa unozvipe mari yako kuti watengese iyoyo tondo iyoyo ndipo tonye murodhi zvatiomera.
Ende kuona kwenyu munofunga kuti politics ine chekuita here neeconomy yemuZimbabwe?
Isa kunokumbira vakuru venyika vapindure nhau because hwero yacho hachazori kubva nekupi kwavakuru here kana kutambura kwavakuru here. Polisi ndiyo yanyanya kuti jiya mari kadhora katinzaoneka titipi mwana avhidhe chikafu otora.
Na kwenyu economy yemuZimbabwe yachinja here?
Yachinja chaizvo kuchinja chaiko because mararamiro aitwa kare neizvozvi zvasiyana. Nekuti tinoona kuti isu tiri vanhu vakatoendawo kuchikoro asi mukuenda kwedu kuchikoro toona kuti izvozvi totsvaka kuti tizvirarame tichizvitengesera asi hatikwanisi kuti titengese nekuda kwepolisi nekanzuru inotitora zvetatatenga zviya tatahodha zviya yotitorera mari dzedu tosungwa todzokera mumba tidekindisaona kuzvikoro toshaya mari dzekuchikoro saka upenyu hwatiomerawo toita sei nangwewa Mhlanga kwawadai wationawo kuti tiri kutambura nekuti kuva tiri pano ivo Mhlanga kwacho kuva vari pano tisu saka kana takuomerwawo tinozovhotera here gore rinacho rinouya 2023 techiomerwa kudai nekuti fachana kuti tivhotere isu ticharamba totivhotera naye muri tumberi ikoko tiri kuomerwa iyo zvikumbiro kadakaita kudai tauya makuseni tabvisa dhora kubva kumba tosvika pano dhora racho ratakwira tisati taribata kungomhanyiswa ukabatwa wanzi ndipe pondo ndinoionepi uri kuishaya sei uri pabasa uri kuishayirwa pondo yacho sei isu tonzi tipe ndoda kupinza nangu chikoro nonzi ndipe mari ndinoionepi piwaka kwaunoshandira ikoko tatambura vanhu vaMwari dai Mwari vatipindirawo vaMhlanga vaona zvekuita because taunotarisa kuti nyika yacho haina president zvakutotiomera polisi yavo ngavabvise polisi wotitsvakira mabasa tori nezvikora sitakagara ndatengesa pabhegi onzi ndipe pondo pabhegi ine 20 bondi onzi ndipe 200 bondi ndoiona kupi saka dai yamboonawo zvekuita hurumende yambofamba kana kumbotsvaka vanhu vanotera mashure vepolisi yavo iyoyi murodhi vanenge varimo kupi masiki worya here wakavhara muromo ukangosvikirwa chirwa wapedza kana ganda rechire bhanana masungwa madhande ekupolisi iye ndande chirya buda isumukai saka toita sei hatichatozivi zano hatisina kana zano saka toda kuti mutotibetserawo kuti muchikwanisawo mumbosvitsa vamboonawo zvatiri kuita tichitambura tatambura vanhu vaMwari iyo zvikuya kudai zvikoro vanoda mari dzeschool fees asi hatina takamira kungosvika takadai saka muwe muZimbabwe zvinhu zvatiomera hatichazivi kokuenda ukaba unosungwa mbavha ichatosungwa mazuva ano watosungwa tisu tinozvishandira vakatosangana nembavha ikatita kuti inodzoka asi isu tinozvishandira tinotosarako vachinzi illegal hazvibvumirwi makamira obstruction saka ndomira kupi ndogarepi munyika medu kunze kwenyika tinobvunzwa mapasipoti muno tinonzwa mirirei saka toenda kupi kunze kwenyika tinoshungurudzwa tonzi xenophobia muno tinonzwa mirirei saka toendepi dai hurumende yatibetsera.
Now, we believe that in any discussion, we must be able to proffer solutions as to, we are saying that this is not working. What would work? How would we manage to actually divorce our economy from the COVID of politics? Honorable Tendai Biti, how can we do this? How can we manage to have an economy that will function and will not have hiccups, even where we have political challenges?
Well, I think that the thing that is arresting Zimbabwe is obviously the political infrastructure. the political infrastructure of predation, the political infrastructure of contested elections, the political infrastructure of violence, of fear, the political infrastructure of a broken down social contract, the political infrastructure of a culture of entitlement, a culture of impunity, a zero-sum game. If we can't have it as ZANU-PF, no one else can have it. So the starting point and the precondition is to resolve the political crisis, is to resolve the crisis of legitimacy, is to attend, Dara Blessed, to the reform agenda, reform of institutions that are captured, reform of the electoral system that doesn't deliver, reform of a media framework that is not free, nor open, nor fair, reform of investment laws that are archaic. So the reform agenda is key to usher in a new aspiration, a new consensus, a new government by the people and for the people. So we need to resolve the crisis of illegitimacy. We need to resolve the political issue. If we do that, that's the elephant in the living room. That's the precondition. If we resolve the political question, and in my submission, you are going to require a transitional mechanism that brings everyone on board, that allows for convergence, and you're going to require some time out to allow yourself to regenerate as a country, to implement this new consensus. That's why in the MDC Alliance, we speak of a national transitional authority, a time out from politics in which you allow the country to regenerate, in which you allow the country to redevelop and push a developmental agenda. So resolution of politics is very important. That's number one. Number two, you have to deal with the economy. And there are transitional issues that you must deal with as a matter of urgency. The first transitional issue is to put a full stop to the mess that is the currency issue. You need to put a full stop to the mess that the currency issue is concerned. In my respectful opinion, the Zimbabwean dollar was totally devalued. It was caught in flagranto by the people of Zimbabwe. People of Zimbabwe lost faith and trust in it. And as a student of history, there is no country in the world that is involuntarily dollarized as we did in 2008, 2009, that has been able to re-dollarize. It's not possible because it's a crisis of confidence. So let's sort the currency issue. If we are going to adopt the rand, so be it. If we are, as some of us believe, that let SADC integrate, and if SADC integrate, Zimbabwe must then adopt the regional currency. But we need to resolve the currency issue so that we stop the arbitrage around artificial wages and so forth. That's transitional issue number one. Transitional issue number two is compensation for loss of values of pensioners and workers. Pensioners lost billions and billions of dollars under phase one, covered by the Justice Smith Commission of Inquiry report. We know that amount, at least it's US $5.86 billion. But there's been a second tsunami, the tsunami from 2009 up until statutory instrument SI 33 of 2019. We need to compensate those pensioners. Equally, we need to compensate savers who lost their money. I represent some of them, and many of them are elderly people who had their money at cabs. They woke up one morning, that money was now Zimbabwean dollars. We've gone to court. We once won. The Supreme Court has reversed that. We're going to go to court again, this time on constitutional arguments. It's not good enough. That's a transitional issue that needs to be resolved. Number three, the debt question. The debt question is putting a noose around our neck. And the debt question is not about debt. Zimbabwe defaulted as way back as 1999. That's when we defaulted. But we've got a sovereign debt of around US $12 billion. It's increasing by the day because John Mangunja, without parliamentary approval, is borrowing billions from the African Import and Export Bank. Mthuli, without parliamentary approval, is borrowing billions from the Chinese Import and Export Bank. A child that is being born today in Lotito or Chendambuya, where I come from, is indebted to the tune of US $300,000, which he or she doesn't know where it's coming from. So we need a program of debt cancellation and debt forgiveness with the IFIs, because that's a precondition to the developmental agenda, to gross capital formation. We need dams, we need roads, we need spaghetti roads, we need railways. We can't do that without resolving the debt question. Another transitional issue that needs to be resolved is the land question. And the land question has got two dynamics and two dimensions. The first one, which no one talks about, but which has suddenly come to the fore because of what Emmerson Mnangagwa is trying to do in Chilonga, where he's trying to take away land from the Hlengwe Shangani people, which land they've been occupying for over 500 years, 200 years before Mfekwan. They're now trying to take away this land of people who came into our country in the 13th century. You've got Section 4 of the Communal Lands Act that says the African must stay in a tribal trust land, now euphemistically called the communal land, and he or she can't own land. But Emerson can come and take that land to give to his friends for lucerne grass and so forth. So that land, the communal land, we need to resolve that. What is the land tenureship pattern in the rural areas? Because the state and the subjective president can't own that land. If you are going to say traditional leaders, have that debate. If you're going to say let families own that land, have that debate, but the current tenure system is not tenable. Then you have the situation of multiple farm owners. Robert Mugabe owned over 20 farms. Emmerson Mnangagwa probably owns half of those. Everyone in ZANU-PF is the who is who of land barons in this country. We need to follow and implement the constitution. One household per one farm, with the maximum sizes of farms per region, and with some kind of title to that land to prevent arbitrage. So the land question needs to be resolved as a matter of agents. And we need to repeal and cancel the agreement that says this regime is going to pay $3.2 billion to former white farmers when the constitution does not allow that. So these are transitional issues which should be dealt with the first 100 days of any incoming regime. I now come to the fundamental issues. Number one.
We seem to have lost Honorable Biti there. I'll come to you, Peter, and say, what is your proposal as workers? What is on the table? What do you want to see that will change the platform for workers in Zimbabwe?
Right. So what Zimbabwe is going through, as I've already mentioned, is that we have degenerated into a failed state. And there are three key issues that are supporting that position. The first one is that we are witnessing a state that is failing to protect and to promote and to guarantee security of persons. The abductions that I've been talking about, the torture, and in some cases, the disappearance of the citizens. We are also a state, as I have already mentioned, that is facing an economic and social implosion. A state that where the majority of people, 82% in urban areas, are living in poverty, and over 72% of the total population are in poverty. And today, I was reading the World Bank statistics pointing out that 40% are now in extreme poverty. So we are a state that is failing in all regards, and a state that is failing in terms of provision of public services, I have already mentioned. So we need to go back and look at the causes. And the causes are simple. It is about dictatorship. We've not been allowed to put all our ideas and to debate ideas and to develop our country in a democratic state. And there's no effective citizen participation in this country. The issues are to do with the kleptocracy. The economy is generally captured by a few and working for a few. And they come up with policies that serve their purposes, or the issues we've been talking about, the issues about corruption, the issues about militarization of the state. So what we are witnessing is an uncompleted revolution. The only way to do it is to go back and say, what were the people fighting for against the colonial rule. They were fighting again for civic and political rights. We need to restore civic and political rights, and we've done a lot in terms of championing that cause, as is witnessed in the Constitution, the 2013 Constitution. So what we just need is not, I don't think if we even need more dialogues, we have a product of dialogue. And dialogue is a process, it's not an event. What we've been doing since 1981 up to 2013 Constitution was dialogue, national dialogue. And we have a product. So what we need is transformative constitutionalism. If we implement that constitution in terms of civic and political rights, we are gone. We are warm and dry. We also need to address the structural economic issues. People were fighting for equality, for equity. They were fighting against a regime or a system of colonial regime that created dualism in this economy, a developed and a well catered for economy where all the resources and all national policies are focusing on, and which is for a few, and a majority that is dumped in an informal economy. And now with 76% of jobs that are informal, with 60.6% of the GDP coming out from informal economy, an economy that is neglected, that is criminalized. You see police always running around and beating and abusing market traders at Siaso, at Mbare in the city. We cannot achieve any economic development without dealing with that structural aspect. So we need to go back and say, we need an economy that works for all. And this speaks to the issues that labor has always been speaking about. We've been saying we've got twin evils. The first one is repression, and we need to restore civil and political rights of citizens. The second one is neoliberal policies. From the time we adopted ESAP, and the time we adopted various other neoliberal economic programs, including STP and now NDS1, we have disenfranchising the majority and building an economy that works for a few. So if you look at the development in the affluent suburbs, they can compare with New York, they can compare with South Africa, Centon, they can compare with the affluent suburbs in economies that are doing well. If you look at the vehicles that MPs are driving, the Wajajenas, that they are bringing in without paying duty, they can compare with pop stars. But if you then go to the ghetto, if you go to Mbare, if you go to Epworth, if you go around the country, you will see that there is serious inequality in this country. And just as I'm speaking, Zesa is gone away, gone out. So there is an issue that we need to deal with, which is the structure of the economy itself. And in this regard, the Labour is not happy with all political players in this country currently. They seem all to be embracing neoliberalism, but that's the area that we need to deal with. Then Honorable Biti is correct. We need to deal with the issue of the land. They say we have taken back our land, but if you look at it, who has taken back land? It's them. The people who are working in this country, the working class. To buy 150 square meters, you need to know a land baron, you need to buy a political party card, you need to pay 20,000, 10,000 for 200 square meters. When people are taking 4,000 hectares, 12,000 hectares without paying anything. So we need to deal with the land issue as well. So in short, we've got two aspects that are very key. The first one is to deal with repression. It is repression that has brought in these sanctions. It is repression that has polarized the economy. It is repression that has taken away the opportunities of the majority, because you need to belong to a political party for you to get opportunities in farming, for you to get opportunities in mining. It is also repression and its support mechanism, which is patronage, which is a creation of a captured state or a rentier state that is causing all these challenges that we have. So fundamentally, we need to deal with transformative constitutionalism. Constitution must be seen to be alive and to be working. And then we cannot just depend on the people who have caused the state failure. they are not going to voluntarily address the issues because they are getting their resources. If you think they are rich and they are millionaires, they want to be billionaires. When you think they are billionaires, and we know some of them are billionaires, they want their kids to be millionaires, and now they have grandchildren. We are in trouble, comrades. We are in trouble, compatriots. They now want their grandchildren to also be millionaires. So what we need is active citizenry. We need citizens to exercise their agency. We need citizens to come together, and for labor, we are saying we need a united front. It doesn't matter whether you are a worker and you support ZANU-PF, you are suffering, you don't get your money from the membership of ZANU-PF, you get your money at the production floor and through your salary. It doesn't matter whether you support which political party. We need to come together and rescue ourselves. So we need to come together and organize ourselves into a united front, come together and clarify our issues. And as labor, we are saying it's the struggle against repression, the struggle against neoliberal policies which have induced unacceptable levels of poverty and misery in this country. So those two things, we need to fight them. Then we mobilize ourselves, use the constitutional provisions that we have. We've got the right to protest, we've got a right to petition government. The government cannot say we are rebels when we are using the constitutional mechanisms that they voluntarily adopted and promulgated in the Parliament of Zimbabwe. So this is the only way we can get out of this state failure that we are, where we are all in misery and in a big prison.
The politics of the economy. This is Free Talk, brought to you in proud partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation and Heart and Soul TV and Radio. And I'm your host, Dara, Blessed Mhlanga. Now, before we had lost, I think Honorable Tendai Biti is now back, I'm sure, and I'm hoping that he still has electricity where he is. Honorable Biti, you wanted to finish your statement. Please go ahead.
Yes, yeah. So there are two things that need to be addressed on the economy. The first one is the accumulation model. You have an economy that is extractive. You have an economy that is based on extraction. So if you work Cecil John Roads today, this economy doesn't surprise you, because what the economy was doing since 1898, the RAD concession is still doing the same. And what is that? You extract raw materials, whether it's gold, whether it's platinum, you send them out as exports. Yesterday, the tobacco auction floors opened. 95% of the tobacco that is produced in this country goes to China, goes to the United States of America, goes to Britain, goes to South Africa. So there's no value addition. And with a skewed accumulation model, a false accumulation model, you can't produce. And it engenders what President Mutasa and the ZCTU have done fantastic work around the dual enclave economy, a small little economy that parasites from a huge peripheral economy that is found in the rural areas. So I think that going forward, we need to address the accumulation model. The second thing around our economy is inequality. Zimbabwe has got around 100 counters of companies that are listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, both the mining counters and the industrials. 99% of those companies, bar Econet, are all white-owned, are all literally foreign-owned. If you take a company like Insco and its co-listed companies like Simpisa, hardly 2 hours pass before an individual Zimbabwean is touched by Insco, whether you have gone to buy chicken in or a pizza, or your wife is cooking a cake using a blue ribbon, a milli meal, or chipataura, or whatever. You can't have an economy like that. So you can't have an economy that is so unequal, that is dominated by a few cartels. So we need to break these wars of inequality that are engendered by a very monopolized economy. Yes, we have spoken around people like Kudata Grey, but they are small players. They're carpenter. The real big guys are the Z Kurunadis of this world, the Delta corporations of this world, the Zimplats of this world, the Caledonias of this world, the Old Mutuals of this world. And Old Mutual is easily the most exploitative company in this country. Those companies need to be broken down. In other words, there has to be a program of radical economic transformation in this country. So we need to deal with these two basic structural issues. That also touches on the land question, because the land question didn't benefit the bulk of our people. The elites took the land, and the bulk of our people are wallowing in poverty, which is why 20 years after the land reform program, the farmers, the so-called new farmers, have not been weaned from poverty. They can't survive without the infrastructure of patronage that is parceled through the program of command agriculture. They are now pretending that command agriculture is coming from CBZ or commercial sector. That's a lie. That money is actually coming from treasury. And the basic reason is very simple: is the uneven and unequal status quo on the land, which perpetuates poverty, which perpetuates inequality. The third thing that we need to deal with. So I've spoken about the accumulation model. I've spoken about inequality and the structure of the economy. I now wish to speak about the third thing, which is gross capital formation or development. Not so long ago, Zimbabwe was 5 times bigger than Tanzania, 2 times bigger than Kenya, 7 times bigger than Zambia. Now we are one of the smallest economies on sub-Saharan Africa. We are only bigger than Swaziland, Malawi, and Lesotho. Every other country to the north of Zimbabwe is now bigger than us, because we have not developed. As I say, and as I used to say when I was in government, if you wake up someone in Zimbabwe today who died in 1967, and you put him in Harare, he or she will not get lost. What will simply confuse him is that where there was a Jameson Avenue, there is now Samora Machel Avenue. Where there was Kingsway Avenue, there is now Julius Nyerere Avenue. Where there was Moffat Street, there's now a different name. There's hardly been gross capital formation. There's hardly been any crane in Zimbabwe. So we need an accelerated program of economic transformation, of gross capital formation, new roads, new bridges, spaghetti roads, airports. Take Ethiopia. A year ago, despite their political challenges, the government of Ethiopia unveiled in Addis Ababa a 59-stop tube station or metro train station. Kenya right now has just unveiled a speed train between Mombasa, its second seat, and Nairobi. Ghana is trying to do the same thing. Morocco has done the same thing. Cameroon is trying to do the same thing. Zimbabwe is lagging behind. So we need gross capital formation too. Number 4, we need to invest in social services. We have devalued education. ZANU-PF still says Zimbabwe is the most literate country on the African continent, or is the second most literate country after Tunisia. Those are statistics that are 20 years old. I run a law firm, and I interview graduates, Comrade Peter Mutasa. Some of the graduates I from law school can't speak 4 or 5 words of English. They can't. And I'm an employer. I run a small law firm. When I was at Ann Blackenberg, we never recruited from kids who were coming from South Africa because our kids were better. Now is the opposite. We hardly want to touch anyone from the local university, but would rather employ kids from University of Cape Town, University of Rhodes, UNISA, and so forth, because the standard of our education is collapsed due to years and years of vandalism and disinvestment by ZANU-PF. So we need to massively invest in education. We need to massively invest in public health system. We need to massively invest in a program of public welfare. I don't want to call it social welfare because it has got a patronizing effect. We need cash handouts to communities, people that are unemployed. This economy can afford handouts of $100 dollars to a person. We brought a court case during COVID to say, can the government give social safety nets grants of $30? Our courts dismissed that, but we need a radical program of distribution of income through program of social grants to communities. People living with disabilities, we need a massive program around that. Displaced and marginalized communities, minority groups. I just spent a week in Chireds talking to Shangani people. I would love to go to Binga and talk to the Tonga people. I would love to go to Kariba and talk to the Tonga people. I would love to go to parts of the country where the Soto people are. The story is the same. I would love to go to Chipinge and talk to the Ndau people. The story is the same, marginalized communities. So we need a program of inclusion that includes addressing social services. Number 5, the technological transformation of Zimbabwe. That is key. That is key. The 4th revolution, as they're calling it. Technology is transforming this world. Do you know, Dara Blessed, that there are now printers that can print an entire school, an entire university can be printed by 3D printers. Zimbabwe needs to address that. Do you know that with blockchain technology, you can make a peasant farmer with 4 head of cattle wealthy, because block technology can allow those cattle to be hypothecated by a bank and give that peasant farmer some loan to harvest or improve 3 or 4 hectares of land that he has with block technology. So we need to address the challenge of the 4th industrial revolution. So these are major issues that go beyond the rhetoric of macroeconomic stability, the rhetoric of the other thing on the economy, which is so key. And I hope, Comrade Mutasa, you'll agree with me. We need to reform the pension structure in this country. The pay-as-you-go structure does not work. Does not work because it doesn't attract savings. Pensions are beautiful in that they are forced savings. For a country like Zimbabwe to develop, it needs savings that are at least 50% of GDP. 50% of GDP. China has developed to become the 2nd largest economy in the world because of savings. It has got savings that are at least 60% of GDP. So you need standalone pension schemes like we used to have, which becomes reservoirs of capital. COSATU is one of the biggest trade unions in the world because it controls billions and billions of pension money from its own members. You understand? So we need, as part of the development agenda in this country, we need to deal with the issue of pensions. Then lastly, the ideology. I know that no one wants to talk about ideology, particularly the neoliberal construct that Emmerson Mnangagwa is. But you can't move without ideology. You can't move without a philosophy. In the MDC, we believe in the idea of a developmental democratic state. What does it mean? It means that the state is large, the state is Bonaparte, the state must play an interventionist role. The state will refuse to do what Adam Smith calls a laissez-faire, an indifferent approach where you leave capital to do what it wants. That's a disaster. It doesn't happen. Not even the United States does that. The United States is one of the most regulated economies because capital is irresponsible. Capital is greedy, and capital looks after one thing and one thing alone is bottom line. So in a democratic developmental state, you need what I call a Bonapartist state, an interventionist state, a redistributive state to build an inclusive economy. So ideology is very, very key. Without your ideology, you can't push this country. And that's one of my biggest problems with the vacuous Emmerson Mnangagwa and vacuous Mthuli Ncube. In the case of Mthuli Ncube, there's only one thing that he knows, is to lie and to lie. He's the bishop of lies and fake news.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tendai Biti, for your exhaustive solutions that you're proffering to this country. Now, we have just run out of time to have further discussions, but we are certain that Persistence Gwanyanya, who is a member of the RBZ Monetary Policy, has failed to join us. He says that he traveled late from Zambia back to Zimbabwe. So unfortunately, we couldn't have his input in this program. But I want to thank you very much for having this amazing discussion on the politics of the economy here on Heart and Soul TV and radio, in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation and me, your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. But it is amazing to realize that we understand the issues around the economy, what needs to be done to move our country. We just need to have, like Peter Mutasa has said, the democracy to be able to share these ideas, to be able as Zimbabweans to find one another and say, how best do we put the ideas to develop our economy before our politics, before our disagreements? We agree on building this nation. Now, I was joined in studio by Peter Mutasa, the president of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, the vice president of the MDC Alliance, and former finance minister, Tendai Biti. You can see and hear from the passion in his voice what he knows about this economy and what he's willing to put into the economy to develop this country. I want to thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. And I want to thank the rest of Zimbabwe, everybody in Zimbabwe, and those outside the country who watch our programs. Free Talk is the center of development in Zimbabwe. And from me, Dara Blessed Mhlanga, and our sponsors and the management from Heart and Soul TV and radio, we want to thank you and have a wonderful and great evening. This is Free Talk in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation, our partners in free speech. Free speech is the center of development of any nation.